Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. So I believe that we are in epic transformational times. We are in times that I feel like since the beginning of time, the drumbeat, the undercurrent has been one resonating message, which is that you are bad, that you, the Americans, are the bad people, that you want too much, you expect too much, you think that you deserve too much, and that none of that is warranted, that you don't deserve anything. You're uneducated, you're ignorant, and this constant drumbeat and browbeating from the political left has been just resonating over our heads since the beginning of times. And I feel like we are in a really transformational time where that whole undercurrent, that whole tone is changing. It's a foundational change. And the truth is, before political action happens, ideas come first. The ideas must change first. And when we're constantly having this browbeating over our head, everything is going to go against us. And it is not until the message changes, and it is not until the ideas in our heads change, that the political action changes, that the legislation changes, that our political representatives change. The ideas come first, the ideas must change first, and then action happens second. And I believe that we are in transformational times because of what we are seeing right now on our watch, in our time. It's truly amazing. And I'm just going to go ahead and give one example of that. So 20 years ago, I was a contractor for USAID. I was contracted by the United States Agency for International Development. I was given just over a 1-year assignment to work in Central Asia and to do economic development work. And what happened is it was really an incredible experience for me. I was selected right out of college. I was selected to go over to a country called Bishkek, to go to a country called Kyrgyzstan, to their capital, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. And I was submerged in the culture. I was living with a Kyrgyz Muslim family. And with that family, I was immersed in the Russian language training, language and cultural training. It was incredible. And from there, then I was selected. They actually intended for me to go work down in a city called Osh, Kyrgyzstan, which is near Afghanistan. It's on the Kyrgyz-Tajik border. So just below Kyrgyzstan is Tajikistan, and just below that is Afghanistan. And I was supposed to go down there and work in a agrarian farming community. But what happened is 9/11 happened. It happened while I was in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. I was actually in the American pub in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. I was probably one of the closest people to Afghanistan at that time. And immediately the reports came that 9/11 happened. We were watching the towers fall from Kyrgyzstan, and we were being told that this whole operation was being conducted out of Afghanistan. And so that was pretty frightening. And what happened is that because of that, they didn't want to put me near that area. I would have been a target. Mm-hmm. And instead, they moved my assignment to near Siberia. And I went to a city called Pavlodar, Kazakhstan, and I worked for 1 year. And when I worked there, what we did is we essentially hired locals and created and what we did is we sort of our project was built on reducing investment constraints and promoting the idea of a free market pro-business society. All sounds good. But ultimately, I found no value in that work because here I was, the American, coming in to these local governance in Pavlodar, Kazakhstan, and I'm talking about how to do business, and they're saying, well, why do you, who makes you the expert? Why are you the designated guy to tell us what to do? And ultimately, they're saying, listen, if you got American cash, go ahead and cough it up. Otherwise, have a nice day, right? And that ultimately was what the whole project was. I didn't really find much value in it. It was incredible to live in that time and that experience. But ultimately, what we were told is we were there for American corporate interests. That's what we were told. We were there told because Kazakhstan has oil, and that's why we're there. And so I didn't find value in it, and I came home concluding that what is USAID doing? It's basically just giving away American money. I come back home and I start doing research on, I moved back home to Northeast Ohio, in Youngstown, Ohio, on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. And I started looking at business opportunities back home. And I started doing research on the local communities. And I found that, for example, in Mercer County, Pennsylvania, the average salary is $20,000 a year. And so our contract over in USAID contract in Kyrgyzstan was a $14 million contract. And I'm sitting here, come back home to rural Ohio, rural Pennsylvania, and I'm saying, how in the world are the people of Ohio and Pennsylvania funding these international overseas developments? They're making $20,000 a year in Sharon, Pennsylvania, right? In Youngstown, Ohio, the average salary was just over $20,000 a year. And they're funding these $1 million contracts overseas. It makes no sense. And so I'm concluding that, and I'm saying, and by the way, do you think that the average person from Hermitage, Pennsylvania, do you think that they want to send their money over to these foreign countries and to do this work? And so I quickly concluded that this USAID is a boondoggle. There's no value in it. The people of Ohio don't get anything out of it. The people of Pennsylvania don't get anything out of it. That money should be sent back to those people. And just like the people here in Texas, they don't get anything out of it, and they should be sent back. And so that was my conclusion of that. And just to give you an idea of how big USAID is, USAID has 10,000 people under contract, right? They have a workforce of just under 10,000 people, and they are managing $43 billion in assets in appropriations that go around the world. $43 billion, okay? And what President Trump has done this week is he's shut it down. He's brought that 10,000 person workforce down to just over 200 people. That means effectively the group is gone. It's shut down. It's over. It's done. This propaganda machine is over. However, that's my opinion on it. But I will tell you this. There is a professor at Texas A&M University, and his name is Andrew Natsios. And he has a fully different perspective on USAID. And just to give you an idea of who Andrew Natsios is, he ran USAID under President George Bush. That's when I was there, so he was running it while I was there. He ran USAID under President Bush, and he now teaches at the Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M University. And so there we have a Bush man who's not happy with the shutdown of USAID, and his argument was this. He says, quote, "The argument has always been that foreign aid is not charity, it's an investment in our national security," unquote. That is Andrew Natsios, professor at Texas A&M University, opposing the shutdown of USAID, okay? Well, let's talk about some of the things that USAID is funding with that $43 billion, okay? First thing, USAID gives $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia, in their businesses, okay? So when I was there, I told you that while we were there, we were hired to sort of influence the local community, the local business community. We weren't that far left back then that we were pushing DEI. Clearly, things have changed, and now we're much further down the line to where now USAID is pushing this on these Serbians. Do you think Serbians want that money? I'd like to remind everybody it was our country that sent a care package to Pakistan. We sent our money to Pakistan through the Texas Democrats supported it. We sent it there to gender mutilate Pakistani boys. How do you think the Pakistanis feel about that? Go ask any Pakistani. I can tell you I asked the Pakistanis about that, and they get red hot mad in a second, okay? So I'm going to ask you something. Is it good that President Trump shut this down, or should he be following President Bush's crony, Andrew Natsios, and keeping this nonsense going? Okay. Next agenda item, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland. What do the Irish think of us right now? Pushing these leftist values on the people of Ireland. This is sick. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. For comic books are for children. They're pushing transgender on children through your taxpayer money through USAID. Okay, now here's the kicker. USAID gave $53 million to Echo Health Alliance, who worked with those funds to support gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab. So USAID funded the Wuhan virus, which was dropped on us, and then every establishment government across the country went full totalitarian to use that virus to shut us down and take our rights away. That's your United States Agency for International Development, and it is now effectively gone. So again, these are epic times. These are amazing times. And this is the Chris Heasley Show. And on the show, we will bring you all of the ideas, the content, the information that you need to take back your city, your village, your borough, your school district, your town, your county, our Texas counties, your state, the great state of Texas, and our country. But there's an obligation that comes with this show, and the obligation is on you to get involved at the local level. And I will tell you right now, we have the football, and we are in the red zone, but we haven't pushed it across the line. And it is up to you to get that football pushed across the line. Push that football across the line in the spirit of 1776 to save our republic, and do it by attending your county commissioner court meetings, by attending your school board meetings, by calling your local state reps, both the ones you agree with and the ones you disagree with, and giving them your opinion on these matters. It is only when you do that that we push that football across the line and we can claim victory, okay? Because when you do that, what you do is the state reps that agree with you, you empower them. You give them the fuel they need to spike that football in the end zone. And the ones that disagree with you, you disempower them. And they lose their momentum. They lose their ability to keep fighting. And we can claim victory in America. We can claim, like raising that flag in Iwo Jima, we can raise that flag right here in the state of Texas and proclaim that we've retained our counties, our Texas counties, that we've retained our state, the great state of Texas, and we've retained our country. And on today's show, we have a great show. We have on the show today Leah Simmons. Leah, a community activist. It's good to see you, Leah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Chris.
Great. And we have Bangar Reddy, political activist. How are you doing, Bangar?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you.
Good. It's good to see you. And we should have someone on the phone here. Do we have a caller on the line? I saw somebody call in. We asked State Rep Matt Morgan to call in. Matt, are you there?
Okay. I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome, man. Good. I was getting kind of nervous there.
Good to hear you, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Howdy. How are y'all?
Just happy to see you active in the community, and great job you're doing in the state capitol. Keep going.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, good deal, guys. So I started this out, essentially my argument is that we are in epic, transformational, foundational times for our country. We're in a paradigm shift of epic proportions where I believe that the activist left is in its dying moment, and I believe that the patriotic right is surging like never before, thanks to guys like Matt Morgan, State Rep Matt Morgan, who led a campaign to take out the rhino element in Fort Bend County. Matt's contributions to the county are epic. They're considerable. And because of that, now we have a platform to fight for liberty. And also because of Leah Simmons. Leah Simmons did her part. You ran for state representative at the county level,
yes,
correct?
Well, yes, I represented state representation of House District 76.
Okay.
Yes.
Good deal. Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. And,
sure.
And who did you run against?
Dr. Suleiman Lalani.
Okay, we have a little bit to say about that in just a few minutes.
Okay.
And Bangar, can you just give us an introduction about yourself?
Definitely. So, thank you, listeners, and thank you, Chris, for inviting me to the show. And as you said, this is really an epic proportions that finally we got our country back. Thanks to God, this is really a great moment for all the patriots in America. And talking about myself, that I have been, striving on the same conservative agenda for last almost 10 years. I have been on this agenda. I ran for United States Congress. I talked about immigration in 2018 itself, that we need to save our borders. And also I talked about how we need to bring conservative ideology so that our communities are together. And also, as I said, many Asian Americans that our ideology is similar to conservative. We came from different countries, but our ideology exactly fits. We want to save our money and want to protect our children, good education, save our borders, and lean government. And that is exactly we are in today. That's why I'm so excited, Chris, to really see the transformational change. And just to talk about USAID, and I am one of the, I know about this aid when I was in India. And I know it might have started with a good intentions, but what happened was it's become so fat. And people living in the United States on paycheck by paycheck, as just Chris mentioned, in Ohio or Texas, in villages, billions of dollars are being wasted. And some of the dollars even siphoned into places where they are using against American interests. So it is simply, I'm so happy that this is killed. And again, for those listeners who can understand how we can make a decision in 1 to just 2 weeks, we are able to kill this. But this is how it is, like a plague. And when our doors seen this, the first thing they can do is kill this. They actually went to trace the money. And anywhere, Chris, just to know about what's happening in the world, go after where the money is going. Money trials will tell you how things are bad, how this woke culture and liberal thing went all over the world, fishing, using our money for all our bad deeds. And I think that is exactly what Trump government, Elon Musk is doing to make sure that, to stop that funding that is going against our own interests. And so that we have to be stronger country, we have to use money back, and we have to put that money back into villages and towns and cities, and where we can well invest on that.
Yeah, excellent. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, I think that it's sort of interesting because we listed all these things that USAID is funding, all of these toxic ideas. And I mean, it's horrible that we're actually feeling these ideas being put on us here in Fort Bend County, here in Harris County. We're having to go fight the school boards to get these sick concepts out of our children's heads that being implemented on us by the federal government. But the fact that our government is spending this money to send these same sick ideas on our behalf to places as far off as Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, or Shymkent, Kazakhstan, or some of these, Hungary and all these other different countries, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's just
wrong.
improper.
And again, we are not against the humanitarian where the help is needed. That is, we always do, and it's the most generous country. I'm not saying, but using this USAID as a weaponization to empower a section of people, but not helping the needy, either the beneficiaries where we are looking for. The money is not reaching to where exactly, maybe 10% of the money. But at the same time, there are people here. We are homeless people here in the United States.
Well,
and a lot more. There is a value for what we can do with that money here in the United States itself.
I mean, every day I drive by. I talk about this every time on my show. I think you all know the route I take to get my son to school. But I drive down West Belfort, past West Belfort, past the 59 feeder road, and the homeless are everywhere. Okay, and what happens is during the summer months they get hot and they take their clothes off, and so what happens is I have my daughter. And she's perched up in her, her child seat in the car. And so it's like I'm self-conscious because I'm driving and there's her head like swiveling back and forth, seeing these homeless, half-nude people in this Texas heat sweltering. And it's like I'm sitting there thinking, God, I wish I could put a blindfold on my child right now, but I have to go through this green light. And I'm forced, here's the left, just one more perverse way, putting their sick ideology on our people. It's just a constant immersion in this toxicity. And I do not blame the homeless. I believe the economic policies of the left, they've disempowered people. They've rendered them such a large portion of our population. They've rendered them unable to attain an income. I blame the political establishment. But my point being is that I am hoping, and I believe that we are turning the corner for a new day. I want to get Matt's opinion. Matt, you're totally, in the fight at the State House. Tell me your take on this USAID shutdown. Is there any reverberations that we can feel here in the state of Texas? You guys need headphones.
Well, I certainly hope so. The issue is, sorry, and there's echo back and forth with me talking, so hold on, let me do this. Bear with me. So, obviously, we spend, the state of Texas is a entity where we actually give in more money to the federal government than we receive back in various tax forms, right? So, by killing some of these terrible ideas and things that, where we've been spending money, hopefully Texans will be able to keep more of their hard-earned tax dollars, right? And, in Texas, because the Doge is so popular, at the federal level, the Speaker of the House actually implemented a similar committee to happen here in Texas. And I requested to be on that committee. We'll see if I'm going to be on the committee assignment or not. But, I'm sure the state of Texas is also wasting taxpayer-funded money. And, my intent is to root that out and to return as much of that, to the taxpayers as we possibly can.
Excellent, man. Yeah. So, that's interesting. Matt says that he's on a committee to root out this same sort of funding. Of course, we know that the tentacles of the establishment left have reached down to the Texas state level, to the community level. But Leah, tell me what you think. I mean, do you think I'm wrong? Maybe this leftist professor at the George Bush School in Texas A&M is right, and USAID is a force for good around the world? Am I wrong, or who's got the right opinion on this one?
Well, we need to worry more about what the community feels about this. That's why they elect people like Representative Matt Morgan. That's a very amazing gentleman. And he's trying to get all the help he can get from the government and state of Texas. But now that President Biden is out of the picture, I see that President Trump has done a lot to implement the policies that Biden did not. He put a cease and desist order, in other words, on everything that President Trump has done and all the executive actions. And now that President Trump is back, he just did everything and did a reversal of everything that Biden did, and everything that Biden undid that President Trump did. President Trump just reiterated everything back. So I think President Trump has everything on board to where everybody can implement a good strategy.
So it is a clear mandate given in the elections that voters have given a very clear mandate that we want a lean government and we need to cut down the waste, and especially USAID, one of them. Answer to your question is maybe portion of it is being used correctly for the purposes, as I said, humanitarian, but unless we stop it and see where the problem is, we cannot fix it. So we are going through this turbulent phase. People might think that, this is too soon and too quick. It's probably impacting some of the people around the world. But I would say unless in order to put a ban, you need to first stop the bleeding. Right. And that's what President Trump is doing. And U.S. Department of Efficiency under Elon Musk going after department after department and make sure that first we need to see where it is bleeding, stop the bleed, and of course we'll come back and make sure that it is being well vested and it is transferred to state, as Matt Morgan said, cities, and we also have to look at the sanctuary cities that are hosting the undocumented immigrants, where there are homeless U.S. citizens on the street. And we need to find the money to go to them to find a home for them. They can live happily. Their children can go to school. And most importantly, in the school district itself, there are so many kids, they don't have meals. They don't have a single meal for the day. And we need to invest money into those places. And then if there is extra money, then we can always, repurposed for the humanitarian grounds.
Okay, and I want to get Matt's opinion on one
Yes.
more item because I know Matt's on a short time frame here, so we want to ask him this one question, be respectful of his time, and
Sure.
and let him be on his way. But Matt, on that point, on Bangar's point, this is a pretty fascinating time, right? So maybe you know the bill, but there's a bill, and I don't know the name. I apologize, I didn't do my homework like I should have. But there's a bill that's been introduced at the Texas State House that would require local county officials, county sheriffs, county district attorneys to actually work with ICE in the roundup of illegal aliens. Can you comment on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a co-author of that bill.
Oh,
It's A.J. Ladderback is the one that introduced it. He's a former sheriff in Lavaca County. I think it's Lavaca. But anyway, so yes, I have co-authored that bill with him to ensure that local government entities work with ICE to round up illegal immigrants that have especially committed crimes in our communities, that they go home.
okay, let me ask you one more follow-up question on that, Matt. There was a bill that was introduced, I don't know when, just within the past year maybe, that was very similar in nature that required we have all these district attorneys that have been empowered by George Soros, funded by George Soros, and were largely following his dictates rather than following the law. And then the Texas State House dropped a bill on them saying if you're not following the law, we can pull you from the state. Are you familiar with that bill?
I am. And I know that that bill has had effects in Fort Bend County already. Like, I'm not certain if things would have happened against, or investigations may have happened and charges against certain elected officials had that bill not been in place.
I totally agree with you. We have seen a marked change in the district attorney's office in Fort Bend County since that bill was passed. We now see certain political officials, regardless of party affiliation, certain rising stars in the Texas Democrat Party, are now under indictment and are being dropped like a lead weight from the Texas Democrats party lineup. But would you agree with that, Matt?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Well, that's quite a statement, man.
I think so. Yeah, as Matt said, and a lot of things are flowing from the federal to state. I think one of the good thing about is I want to say when Matt is here, state of Texas is a beneficiary of Trump policies in many ways. The immigration, when you talk about it, the first beneficiary is Texas. Drill baby drill, Texas is the beneficiary. And schools and gun control, everything Texas is the beneficiary, right? I think state policies and our federal policies really align, because there are some other state governors say, oh, we are not going to support ICE. We are not going to let them come and pick up these terrorists even. Some of them are even terrorists. And some of the undocumented immigrants, they are here. They are committing crimes and going after, even killing some of the U.S. citizens, right? So I think ICE is paying its job. We need to let them do their job. This is law of the land, I would keep saying. And I think our state is really cooperating on that. But again, we have to go to the next level, whether cities are coordinating or not. If cities are not cooperating, what I wanted to say is we need to make sure we should cut the funding for those cities so that they understand the pain of every citizen who voted under this election.
Okay, Bangar, can you hear Matt when he's talking?
Yeah.
You can?
Yes.
Okay, good. I
Because
was
I'm
really
listening to-
self-conscious
yes.
about that. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so we talked about how the DAs are being reined in, being tied down to the law. Now there's a proposal to do the same thing with the sheriffs. Are there any ideas on the horizon to do the same thing with, first of all, what cities in the state of Texas are sanctuary cities? Do you know? What cities in the state of Texas? Are there any sanctuary cities in the state of Texas?
I'm thinking El Paso is one of them, and I don't know whether Houston, probably not. There was a debate. Even one time KP George was thinking that we can make this Fort Bend County as sanctuary county. But the psychology is moved towards it to empower them, and I think we should cut down such activities because this is a peaceful county, peaceful city. We should stop funding for those, especially federal funds, if they are hosting these undocumented immigrants. Otherwise, it will not stop because Trump promised this to happen. Trump promised that all the undocumented immigrants must have to leave, so that there is an orderly process for the documentation, so that there is a legal immigration, so that they can stand in the line just like anybody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on that note, I have this headline that popped up. Harris County empowers attorney to sue Trump administration over executive actions. So the Harris County is, I don't know if you were, Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee requested authority to take legal action without court approval for a 6-month period with the option to request a renewal. Menefee argued that he could not wait for the court approval given the nature of these orders. The motion to empower Menefee passed 3-1, with the only Republican voting against it was Commissioner Tom Ramsey. And this is, one second here. This has to do with this issue. It has to do with the being born here.
Birthright citizenship.
Birthright citizenship, right?
Yes.
So it has to do with birthright citizenship, and essentially what's happening is that at the county level, Harris County is this is so absurd. At the Harris County level, they're attempting to make an argument for birthright citizenship. These county commissioners do not know their place. I mean, they are hired to be city engineers and nothing more. They're maintenance managers. And they're trying to dictate international policy? I mean, like, this...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Leah. What did you
Leah.
want to say?
Oh my goodness. There's so many levels. The county is right now in the middle of a lot of situations that I don't know if we have time for this, but should we speak about the situation there, how it's not going so well for the county judge and situation?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, go.
Well, I mean, I kept a very quiet perspective about the KP George situation and then Terrell Patel, and it also affected my precinct 3. So Ali Shakani, I mean, a great constable now, but right now I feel like my precinct is getting inundated with all the homeless people also in my area. And there's nothing I can say or do about it because it's more like a mud district, for example. So Mission Bend's also a mud district. Mm-hmm. And I would say Harris County has a lot of zoning problems. So anyone that does not have a tax, say like Bolio's Bakery, for example, they don't have a tax. They don't pay for that. So we're having to deal with a lot of different taxation by representation policies in Harris County that are not implemented. So the new mayor right now hopefully can fix that problem. And hopefully the new mayor we include in the Sugar Land City Council will also have an access at the table to talk with me or whoever about this.
Absolutely. I want to be, because Matt told us he's on a short time frame. So I just want him to chime in one last time here. Matt, my question for you is, at the county level, is there any laws being passed that would rein in these activist commissioner courts, these activist mayors, when they're attempting to take on birthright citizenship, when they're attempting to take on, attempting to be a sanctuary county? Is there anything coming from the state at that level?
Chris, that's a great question. I'm sure there is. There are 10,000 plus bills that are in the works right now. I have not specifically worked directly on that, but I have worked indirectly on some bills that are similar to that with some other folks that will likely be, the author and, I may be the co-author depending on what the final language looks like. But we're still waiting on stuff to come back from what we call ledge council. So every bill that goes through the Texas House has to be stamped by legislative council to ensure that if we write the law this way, it's not breaking laws other places where things need to be changed and that it's constitutional, et cetera. And so right now, I think they announced last week 2,900 bills had been filed, and they had 9,000 plus in their backlog to actually uh, check, confirm, and get written. So I'm sure there's stuff coming down the pike. We just haven't seen it yet.
So what you're saying, I think you go back and you establish the foundation I put at the beginning of the show, which is that the momentum's in our court. Something's coming. Matt, I don't want to keep you, but we're going to shift focus. Leah ran against State Rep Solomon Lulani, and we're going to sort of deep dive into his representation of our district. Did you want to stick around for that, or I'm sitting here. I'm self-conscious of your time because I think you're traveling to the State House or something of that sort. But do you need to go, or did you want to hang out?
I will try and be here as long as I can for you to help you guys out. But I am actually driving into Austin right now. We got more work to do. So
okay.
Anyway.
Just drop off at any time if you want to, but this is going to be a freestyle conversation at this point going forward.
Yeah, when Matt is listening, I just want to add, especially this is about the U.S. State Rep, right? And Leanne Simmons, you are running for State Rep position.
Yes.
And
she's
why
not running. You're not running.
I'm going to reiterate that. I did run.
Yeah.
But right now I can't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. But let me see what I'm trying to say is the State Rep, Matt ran a very clean campaign. I saw his campaign, and he's not like a bias. Like he was very good, strong conservative. He put strong principles, and he advocated about immigration very clearly, and he advocated about the money should come back to the citizens.
Yes.
And he was on my show before. What I want to say is I think that's the wave that is going after. We should be very clear cut that message that should go to everybody. That as you said, just like you said. These policies should help the citizens. This is we have to bring our America back. This is for those people who say, oh, we need to have some soft corner. Of course, that is not at the cost of some homeless people on the street. I say it again, somebody who doesn't have offer to go to school, and it is about some of the villages they cannot pay. They don't have a job, and some people living on paycheck to paycheck, and we are under high inflation thanks to Biden. And because of all this, America First is the policy that is mandated by the people, Chris. So we need to, embrace that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to jump in to add something real quick.
Please go.
So tax dollars should 100% be used for taxpayers and citizens of this country. And we need to eliminate anything that doesn't help the taxpayer and the citizens of this country and state. Period. In the report.
So that is correct, Matt. That is the bottom line, right? The money that taxpayers are paying, if you can empower them, and they can, they can work hard and they can get the benefits. And we wanted a lean government, and I think we need to go after still, and many other departments will touch upon this, government Department of Efficiency. But I think we should go after IRS too. IRS is too big, and too many people, trying to do nothing but putting a burden on American taxpayers.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too.
Okay, yeah, like for example, right now there's this massive debate breaking out amongst what I consider the deepest of intellectuals. And essentially the argument that's coming out is that for the early beginning of part of our century, the 1900s, the way the government attained its funding was through tariffs. And during that time, people had bountiful careers. Our country was in a good, healthy state of economic being. And what happened is President Woodrow Wilson got elected, and immediately what I refer to as the banker class started putting insidious ideas in his head. Because again, what tariffs do is they protect your way of life. They protect your income. They protect your ability to do your own trade. And so what the banker class started to do is they started to put into President Wilson's head to get rid of the tariffs and replace it with something that's more of a cancer on our income, which is the income tax. And in a 1-2 move, that's essentially what happened. We got rid of tariffs, we introduced the income tax, and our way of life and our quality of life began to erode immediately. And so when President Trump all of a sudden, and then of course they had all the business schools. You can see every business school has a rich person's name next to it. That's because that billionaire put his money down, and then they began teaching the ideas that would protect the interests of the billionaire class, which was the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which we were told tariffs are bad, 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 bad. Well, President Trump defies them, goes against that that narrative and says, no, we're going to reintroduce tariffs. And that's causing this great debate to break out. And what people are now learning is that, hey, wait a minute, maybe tariffs are the right idea. Why are all these other countries using them? They're prospering, and we're faltering. And so it's really a tremendous time. Give me your guys' opinions on what do you think?
Yeah. So you touched upon, Chris, tariffs are actually working. Earlier, as you see during Biden administration, we have become so weak even to communicate on some of the policies that impact the United States. You cannot even communicate, and they are just not even listening. I think Trump policy of putting tariffs are working very well. If you look at it, because you can have hours and hours and months and years of diplomacy, and once we know that it's not working, the best way to do is to put the tariffs, and which we did, dealing with Canada, dealing with Mexico, and dealing with China. It's going to work. And because, as I said in the beginning of the show, you need to go and see where the money is going, and only people are going to listen, or the leaders are going to listen, not to our talk. Talk is cheap sometimes, but it is about how this is going to impact their economy and how it is going to impact our economy. And I think that is the fair discussion to have tariffs that can dictate the policies.
Well, the problem I see with Canada, they don't want to work with President Trump. I mean, they fight him all the time. And what are we both supposed to do about that? I mean, President Trump thinks Canada should be the 51st state.
Then they started listening. Right?
Yes.
Then they started listening, and this 30 days extension is gone. And then now they will sit together and they listen to each other. Mm-hmm. So tariffs did work. And same thing, Venezuela, they don't want to take, but once we started putting our foot down, and they are started listening. And I think Mark Rubio, just to talk about it, Department of State, they're doing a great job, and he's going after. And I'm telling you, even Panama was listening to China before. Now they are started listening to what United States is saying. So basically, we have become such a weak country for so long, for the last 4 years. And we are just funding the people, and undocumented immigrants illegally entering to United States, and nobody is really paying attention. Our vice president, the previous, God, she's gone, Kamala Harris, not even going to the border. And we lived in such a situation. Thanks God, with our great leader, Trump, we have our country back.
And he lets normal people become ambassadors. Who does that? Yeah. I mean, that's the great country we live in right now. Normal people becoming something great.
That is giving power back to the people, and I think that's what happened, and I'm so happy. And I think people see maybe some of the people are still kind of, just to tell on the other side of the coin, and maybe they are kind of scary little or having fear because of the changes. And once they see the fruits out of it, once you are making these things great to make America great again, and I think they feel very happy. And I'm seeing already a lot of teenagers, youth, and Americans are turning the tables and coming back and making sure America First would really help our economy in the long
Guys, I want to shift the conversation a little bit here.
Yes.
Sure.
So we have Matt, who's well immersed at the state level.
Yeah.
Appreciate his perspective on everything. But we have another person here, Leah. And Leah, she also is equally as knowledgeable at state level issues. We really haven't given her a chance to give a full introduction of herself.
Oh,
but
yes.
I'm gonna give it to you because she is chomping at the bit, waiting to talk about the stuff that is in her sphere, where she's a subject matter expert. And what Leah, I met Leah. She was on the campaign trail, hard on the campaign trail. Every event that I would show up to, she was there. Again, at that time, I was nothing more than an activist dad fighting to get parent rights back at the school board. I was doing that. I kept bumping into Leah. And she at that time was running for the Republican nominee for state representative. So with that being said, I want to ask you, Leah, tell me about your background and tell me why you ran. You did not. You won the primary, but you failed in the general election. Tell me why you ran for state office.
Like Bangar was saying, community. It's so important to me. I think the community is the most important backbone to all civilizations, all dating back all the way to the time of Jesus. I mean, family is the first and thing you call in the morning, and the first and the last thing you talk to at the end of the day. You have to talk to someone so you confide in your family. And to me, Fort Bend is my family. And I've made a lot of friends actually in Harris County, and I'm loving it. This is the most beautiful experience just being here. I'm glad to be here.
So, you ran. What were the issues that you ran on? What were the things that were irritating you? The things that you saw wrong in our community that caused you to run?
Yes, I know. I think the homelessness issue was one of them. The immigration, also the sexualization of kids. There's some prostitution problems in certain areas of Harris County, Fort Bend. The list can go on and on. I mean, even the price of eggs right now, can you believe it? $5 just for a carton of eggs? Where are we at today? And right now, people have to struggle just to buy food and gas. Can you remember the time when gas was so high? And now we have President Trump. Actually, the reason why I ran, I remember when President Trump had a Latino for Trump office. And it was right near my house. And I saw the need to just be active because in my area, the Hispanics are not really activist Republicans. So I feel like I'm doing something that no Hispanic has ever done in my area.
And I'd like to say this is a time when the commoner takes back the country. You know, it was Thomas Sowell that said he'd rather pick 4 names out of a telephone book to run the country than some Harvard. Mm-hmm. And you know, what the establishment does is they roll out their resume with all the money that they made and all the advanced Ivy League degrees, and we're all supposed to just, you know, be in awe of their sheer intelligence. I'm done with that narrative. I can't take it anymore. It makes me it makes my stomach upset. And I would like to say that Leah is just that. She is a everyday average person. She's not rolling out her resume of accomplishments. She's saying, hey, I grew up in this county, been here for a lifetime. You know, it is built into who I am as a person. And just tell me more, I mean, about your background and that sort.
Oh, yes. Exactly where I live is Mayfield Park. Everybody knows about it. Actually, it was a very segregated community in 1950s. And then my grandfather met my grandmother in the sugar mill refinery, the one that's actually being implemented in the city plan. Right now, the mayor of Sugar Land needs to be someone that has my values, and we need to work together. That's why I'm concerned about this race. So since I'm just in the back seat, I just want to be able to just be supportive.
Sounds like we lost Matt.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping he could chime in on this one, but it's okay. Well, okay, Leah, you ran against Solomon Lulani, and what happened is we had a caller find out, a listener find out that you were on the show, and they sent over this mailer from Solomon Lulani's. Now, Solomon Lulani was who defeated you in the general election. He is our state representative for Fort Bend County. What district?
District 76. District
76. And so when I open Solomon Lulani's pamphlet, it doesn't say anything about any of these narratives. It doesn't talk about, for example, the sexualization of children. We don't know if he's pushing that agenda. He doesn't really comment on that. It doesn't talk about the what I would say the stripping of the rights of the parent at the school board level, where school board and state authorities were attempting to sort of attain medical decision-making authority over the children. It doesn't talk about that. It doesn't talk about the transgender mutilation of our children's organs on the operating table. It doesn't talk about any of those things. But one of the things it does talk about, it talks about public safety and responsible gun ownership. There it is right there. There, now you have that condescending leftist. That leftist wagging the finger at you. You Americans and your guns. You think you know how to handle a gun. You don't know how to handle a gun. Solomon Lulani knows how to handle a gun, and you are no Solomon Lulani, okay? So we're going to have to take that gun from you, you child, because you're not big enough to know how to handle it. You're not old enough. You're not responsible enough. It's you that is responsible for all the crime wave on the street. Not leftist agenda, not leftist policies, not the immoral agenda being put on our children, not the dismemberment of the family unit, not these constant economic policies that are pushing us into poverty, and as a result, theft is going up. Nope, it's not that. It's the fact that you Texans don't know how to handle your guns. And I tell you, one man that's confident enough to tell you how it is. That's State Rep Solomon Lulani, who says public safety and responsible gun ownership. That's a message to you, you Texans. So that's a little bit of Solomon Lulani's opinion of Texans. I would say that that's condescending. Tell me what your opinion is of that.
Well, I believe in protecting the Second Amendment right because we're Texans. I mean, everybody has to go their route and say, I want to protect my family, or say that a person that loves to go and, just do the sporty kind of thing with killing the deer. And I know some of the vegetarians out there don't like that. But to me, you should have a right to protect yourself. Now, I understand the background check situation, but everybody is going to be implementing some kind of way of protecting themselves in their home. They're not going to just wave the gun in the air. I mean, if they do, then they're called terrorists. But I think the people of Fort Bend and Harris County and all across Texas deserve to have the right to show that they have the mental capacity to think for themselves. Point taken, if you have an ID, why do you want to have a fake ID? You have to have your Social Security card because the government thinks you have the mental capacity to drive. So that should be pointed out on the ID.
But
if
I
you
guess my
want to
question
have
for you, do
that
you think
gun
that's really what
situation,
Solomon Lulani's going for?
no.
Do you think that's what do you think he really cares about how gun checks are happening?
No, because even say example at gun shows, if you're going to have your license, you better carry that so that you can be able to have a gun.
Where does the line stop for Solomon Lulani? Okay, he gets his gun ID checks. Does he just stop talking about gun rhetoric at that point?
I have never seen him come to my door and talk about it.
My point is that they are always advancing the ball forward. You give them an inch, they take a mile. He is not about ID checks.
No.
He's about disarmament of the people of Texas.
Exactly.
He wants us disarmed. He's not going to stop until we are completely rendered defenseless. That's his agenda. So I'm not going to sit here and go and talk about how I'm doing my proper thing in getting my ID. I'm not. I put the target, metaphorically speaking, put him on notice. He is the issue, not gun owners. Mm-hmm. And it's his rhetoric that is pushing a Marxist agenda. Mm-hmm. While the left pushes all this hypersexualization on our children, while the left ruins our economy and causes crime to go through the roof, while the left dismembers the family union, Solomon Lulani wants to take your guns away from you. He's advancing one unit forward in that leftist agenda. What do you think, Bangar?
Absolutely. Talking about the Solomon Lulani, have seen campaigning with us. I think Solomon Lulani, when you talk about the gun ownership, is not coming clear on what is the policy, right? So Texas spoken very clearly. We have to protect our Second Amendment. We need to have gun ownership, and exactly the person who is handling the gun knows when to. And having it itself is a deterrence for the community, deterrence for the family, and so that we will have a very safe community and safe neighborhoods. That is the policy, not like, Solomon Lulani probably speaking on, giving a mixed voice about this gun ownership, and it's not going to work. And also, second thing I want to say, maybe his first term might have worked running as a state rep on just touching upon the policies. In this Trump 2.0 era, I think people are looking deeper into the issues, and it's the time for the, state 79, district 79 to focus more on what are the top priorities on this district, and what is Solomon Lulani's point on gun ownership, what is his point on health issues, what is his point on spending money for this gender mutilation. We need to put him on the spot, not like touch upon certain things.
Let's quit allowing him to find the talking point topics.
What he stands for.
Let's us choose the talking point topics for him to respond to. Solomon Lulani, how do you respond to Trump's protection of local Texas industry through the use of tariffs? What's his answer to that?
Exactly. And what about using the money for this gender mutilation? What is your stake on vaccinations? what is your stake on gun ownership?
Okay.
There are so many
He's a
topics
doctor.
that
I mean, he should be able to answer all these questions.
Right. But here's my first question. Texas, Moms for Vaccine Choice, do they have an opinion on Solomon Lullani?
Well, right now, I know he has a group that is for him that is upset at Greg Abbott. Moms that are against the Greg Abbott situation as far as the guns and the Mama Bear movement where, we need to protect our kids. But I don't hear anything about what Chris is saying about transgenderism, nothing like that.
Right. So we have had, I believe Solomon Lullani, he came to the school boards, and I believe it was him that argued for mask mandates on the children. In other words, stripping the rights away from the parent regarding this. That was the first step to strip rights away from the parent regarding medical decision-making authority over the child. It should be a parent that decides whether or not one of these sick, disgusting, and gross masks are put on the face of our children. Not any school board official, not any state bureaucrat, but what's his opinion on that? Where does he stand on that issue? Because we know that issue is the first step towards mandatory vaccines.
Well, I guess he just doesn't want to give the parents the right to choose. I mean, in other words, you don't get to protect yourself. Your child has to wear a mask. What are we living in, the Stone Age? I mean, we're Texans. We believe in protecting our children, our rights. If he says, I'm a Muslim and I want to protect my right as in my religion, then let our children be protected in our schools. Not only that, what are the teachers going to do if another terrorist attack comes on the schools and then there's no one to protect the babies? So what are we going to do?
Right. Well, okay, so my point is this. We're looking at his flyer here where he lists all of his initiatives, mental health initiative, technology, and infrastructure. But I guess what a state rep, what his flyer should list is, what is the state rep doing to advocate for protecting our border, right? There's nothing here. One of the hottest topics in the state, he goes pointless.
So that's why when you see, it's not how many pages of information right there, it's very generic, as you see. But as you
this
said,
is all
need to take each
candy
question,
canes and cream puffs.
Yeah, parental rights, immigration, economy, health, vaccination, and parents' choice. These are the things that we need to really point blank ask those questions to him, and based on that, we should decide, whether the candidate is, right for the constituency or not. That's not happening. The reason being, it again falls back on our people who vote for the candidate. They don't dig into what exactly the person stands for. They go by the identity politics based on race or religion or this.
Right.
And that's where we lose the focus on working on the topics that matters most to the community.
Right, and everyone in the community should have a right to speak up.
Yeah, exactly.
But he turns them away. Well, come to the Capitol, come see me there. People can't drive all the way to Austin. Where are you? I mean, he has parties, he has a lot of money, I get it. He's a fabulous human being, he's a doctor. But talking points, that's all they are, Chris. Right.
Yeah, that is more important on how it benefits the community, right? So being a leader, we have to look upon these 8 points agenda. And as Chris is reading through the 2 pages of that, it has all the generic information.
Right.
And we're looking for leaders who, because we are going through a lot of these challenges. And this is a transformation age, and it's not the leftist agenda that prevails. We need to focus more on, as I said, gun control. We have the right to protect our state, protect our families. And again, we talk about the school children, so parents' choice.
Right.
We need to focus on that. But you look at any of these points, is he favor of anything on these areas? And therefore we definitely need to put a strong advocacy of educating people on these areas. And I think Chris Show is helping us in doing that. This is more about educating the people, because otherwise, if you just vote based on identity politics, and we never get into the real issues that are facing our state or our county or our city.
I mean, absolutely. We have to move away from identity politics which, by the way, I think that whole concept has been used as a weapon against us. The fact that people do sort of stick to their own communities, which is only normal. But the point is that in Fort Bend County, we're obviously presented with a challenge. We're the most diverse county in the state, And we have to move above and beyond that and begin selecting the best candidates.
And remember
we
that
have
the whole
such
story,
a pool
the
of
whole
talent
story
to
on
pull
Taral
from.
Patel is talks about the same thing, right? The identity politics are heavily used to basically get the favor on one
Right.
candidate over the other, not on the real issues. You create these fake identities, and you act like you are white supremacist or something, and based on that you try to gain the points. And again, people, we were able to figure out that these are all fake accounts being used.
Well,
by
that's
the
why
county.
that's why Patel lost.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to, and I feel terrible when people, someone that ran against me that was a Muslim said I was a racist and I was a xenophobe and all that. I don't look at the color of your skin. I look at your merit, like Trump said, based on merit. We are doing our job to help this community, this state, this country, the universe. Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. I mean, we're living in it's the best place to be right now, in the place of progress and momentum, and we need to pick it up. And it starts with us.
Yes,
Very good.
and it starts with thinking beyond, and we cannot get into those old programs. Again, demolition of DEI is good. Merit based will prevail because it's proven DEI is again just funding for things that are going into the deep pockets, not helping the common man that Chris talked about in those villages, those cities. They don't have a job, they're looking for job something, and it's not, these DEI programs are not helping, and even it's not reaching out to African American or Asian American or anybody. It's not helping, rather it's only wasting the money. And I think turning down the DEI is a great thing, so that we can focus on real America, real growth, so that we are all together as one America. It's not about dividing the people based on the race, religion. I think it is over. And it's the time that's why I'm so happy, Chris, working on this Trump agenda, because it brings the people focus on what is good for the country, your family, and always you can work towards what should come to your table, dinner table, and what is for your children, and that should be the focus. And I think that's what the Trump is doing it, and that's where we are putting stop to all these funds that are being wasted, and then we have to have a real governance. And I think Trump 2.0 is just doing that.
Yeah, excellent, very good. Well, I think we'll close on that note because that's one hell of a note to close on. I appreciate everyone here. I appreciate State Rep Matt Morgan calling in. I appreciate Bangar Reddy showing up today. It's been a very interesting
Thank you, Chris.
conversation. I appreciate
Thank
Leah.
you, Leah.
I loved
You covered
it.
a lot of things as a common citizens facing it. It's very important that we as common people think from their shoes, not from where we are. And I just want to add one comment, Chris. People ask me about, right? I am also an immigrant coming to United States. I followed the path, came as a student, follow that path of F1 visa, H1 visa, and then the green card, then the citizenship. It's a journey. That journey is open today, and Trump is not saying against that. Merit-based is always proven to be the right way because we contribute to the economy and greatness of America, greatness of United States of America. That doesn't give you power to enter the country illegally or find shortcuts to enter into the United States to sometimes even pave the way for these crimes and other stuff. So that's a different topic, but I am saying there are great patriots who are natural immigrants to United States, and I think the question is not about them. So I want to draw a clear line between naturalized citizens who are here versus those illegal immigrants that Trump 2.0 is fighting for.
Excellent.
And
very
I'm
good.
for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you.
Well, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. Appreciate everyone listening.